The Golden Thread, a bedtime story of wealth and manifestation. Chapter 1. The Awakening. Ethan Carter lived in a city that never truly slept, its restless energy a constant companion to his own unsettled mind. His apartment was small and sparsely furnished, with just enough space for a worn-out couch, a tiny kitchen table, and a bed that creaked with every turn. The walls were adorned with a few faded photographs, reminders of better days and distant dreams. Yet, despite the humble surroundings, Ethan's heart still harbored hope, even if it was buried beneath layers of worry and fatigue. Each morning he woke before dawn, the city's first light barely touching the horizon. He would sit at the edge of his bed, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, mentally preparing himself for another long day at the corner cafe where he worked. The job paid little, but it was steady, and in these uncertain times, that was something. Still, as he stared at the stack of bills on his kitchen table, Ethan couldn't help but wonder if life would ever change. Would he ever break free from this cycle of just getting by? One particular night, as a cold wind rattled the window panes, Ethan found himself unable to sleep. The worries seemed louder in the darkness. Rent was due, his savings were nearly gone, and the future felt like a fog he couldn't see through. He tried reading, but the words blurred together. He paced the living room, trying to quiet his mind, but the anxiety only grew. Desperate for distraction, Ethan picked up his phone and scrolled through social media. He paused on a video of a woman speaking about the power of words. Her voice was calm and soothing, her eyes bright with conviction. "Your words are seeds," she said. "Plant what you wish to grow. Speak what you seek until you see what you've said." Ethan scoffed softly, but something about her message lingered. He'd heard of affirmations before, but they always seemed a little too good to be true, like wishing on a star. Still, with nothing to lose and sleep nowhere in sight, he decided to try. He sat on the edge of his bed, closed his eyes and whispered, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The words felt awkward, almost silly, but as he spoke them, he noticed a subtle warmth in his chest, a gentle easing of the tension that had knotted his muscles. He repeated the phrase, this time a little louder. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The city's hum faded into the background, and for a moment, Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in months. He let the words echo in his mind as he finally drifted into a deep, restful sleep. The next morning, Ethan awoke feeling lighter, as if a heavy blanket had been lifted from his shoulders. The worries were still there, but they seemed less overwhelming. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror, studying his reflection. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly," he said, watching his lips form the words. He gave himself a small, uncertain smile, feeling a flicker of hope. At the cafe, the day unfolded in its usual rhythm. Customers coming and going, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clatter of cups and saucers. Yet, small things began to catch Ethan's attention. A regular customer, Mrs. Patel, complimented him on his kindness and left a tip that was double her usual. Later, his manager, Greg, pulled him aside and praised his work ethic, hinting that a new position might be opening soon. During his lunch break, Ethan found a crumpled $20 bill in the pocket of his old coat. He laughed, shaking his head in disbelief. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly," he whispered, almost as a joke. But the words felt different now, less like a fantasy and more like a possibility. As the day wore on, Ethan found himself repeating the affirmation whenever his mind wandered. Each time, it felt a little more natural, a little more real. He noticed that his mood improved, and even the most difficult customers seemed less bothersome. He began to wonder if there really was something to this idea of speaking what you seek. That evening, after his shift, Ethan wandered through the city streets, lost in thought. He passed a small bookstore he'd never noticed before, its window glowing warmly against the night. Drawn by curiosity, he stepped inside. The air smelled of paper and possibility. He browsed the shelves until a slim book caught his eye. The Golden Thread, Manifesting Abundance. He flipped through its pages, reading snippets about gratitude, intention, and the law of attraction. The words resonated with him, echoing the affirmation he'd begun to adopt. He used the last of his cash to buy the book, feeling a sense of anticipation as he walked home. That night, Ethan sat at his kitchen table, reading by the soft light of a lamp. The book encouraged him to write down his affirmation and repeat it daily. So he did, scribbling the words on a sticky note and placing it on his bathroom mirror. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. Before bed, he closed his eyes and spoke the affirmation 3 times, letting it settle deep into his subconscious. He imagined what it would feel like to live in abundance, to pay his bills with ease, to help his friends, to wake up each day excited for what was to come. As he drifted off to sleep, Ethan felt a quiet confidence blooming inside him. The affirmation was no longer just a string of words. It was a seed planted in the fertile soil of his mind. And though he couldn't yet see the harvest, he sensed that something had shifted. The first light of possibility had dawned, and Ethan was ready to see where it would lead. Chapter 2. The First Ripple. Ethan woke to the gentle glow of morning sunlight spilling through his thin curtains. The city outside was already alive, the distant sounds of traffic and conversation filtering up to his small apartment. He lay still for a moment, savouring the rare sense of calm that had settled over him. The affirmation he'd whispered the night before lingered in his mind, like a comforting melody. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. He rose and shuffled to the bathroom, where the sticky note on his mirror greeted him with its hopeful promise. He read it aloud, his voice a little stronger than yesterday. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. The words felt good, like a gentle encouragement from an old friend. After a quick breakfast, Ethan set out for work. The city's energy felt different today, brighter somehow. As he walked, he repeated his affirmation under his breath, letting it sink with his footsteps. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. With each repetition, his confidence grew. He imagined himself moving through the world with ease, attracting opportunities and abundance like a magnet. At the cafe, Ethan was greeted by the familiar aroma of fresh coffee and the bustle of the morning rush. He slipped into his routine, preparing lattes and pastries, greeting regulars by name. Yet, he noticed subtle changes in his interactions. Customers seemed friendlier, their smiles warmer. The tip jar filled more quickly than usual, and even Greg, his often gruff manager, seemed to be in a good mood. Mid-morning, a young woman with a bright scarf and an infectious laugh approached the counter. She ordered her usual chai latte and struck up a conversation about the book Ethan was reading during his break. "I've heard of the golden thread," she said, her eyes lighting up. "I'm a big believer in manifestation too. It's amazing what a shift in mindset can do." Ethan felt a surge of connection. He shared his recent experiences with affirmations, and she nodded enthusiastically. "Keep at it," she encouraged. "The universe listens when you speak with intention." Before leaving, she dropped a generous tip into the jar and handed Ethan a business card. "If you ever want to talk more about abundance, give me a call." He slipped the card into his pocket, feeling a flutter of excitement. It was a small thing, but it felt like a sign, a gentle nudge from the universe that he was on the right path. He whispered his affirmation again, this time with gratitude. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The rest of the day continued in this quietly magical way. An elderly man, Mr. Harris, who rarely spoke more than a few words, lingered at the counter to thank Ethan for always remembering his order. "You make my mornings better," he said, pressing a folded $5 bill into Ethan's hand. Later, Greg asked Ethan to stay after his shift. "I've noticed your attitude lately," he said. "You've really stepped up. I'd like to start training you for a supervisor position." Ethan could hardly believe it. The affirmation echoed in his mind, stronger than ever. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He thanked Greg, his heart pounding with excitement and disbelief. On his way home, Ethan stopped at the park to sit beneath the budding trees. He pulled out his notebook and began to jot down the day's unexpected blessings: the business card, the kind words from Mr. Harris, the promotion offer. As he wrote, he realized that abundance was showing up in many forms, not just money, but kindness, connection, and opportunity. He closed his eyes and repeated his affirmation, letting it settle deep into his being. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He pictured himself thriving, surrounded by supportive people, his life unfolding with grace and ease. That evening, Ethan decided to treat himself to dinner at a small bistro he'd always admired but never dared to enter. The waiter greeted him warmly, and the meal was delicious. When the bill arrived, Ethan discovered that his meal had been discounted as part of a special promotion he hadn't known about. He laughed, feeling the universe wink at him. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly," he whispered, savoring the moment. Back home, Ethan reflected on the day's events. He realized that the more he embraced the affirmation, the more he noticed opportunities and abundance in his life. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a world that was always ready to support him, if only he believed it was possible. Before bed, Ethan stood in front of his mirror, looking at the sticky note. He spoke the affirmation 3 times, each repetition filling him with a deeper sense of certainty. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He felt a quiet joy settle in his chest, a knowing that he was on the brink of something wonderful. As he drifted off to sleep, Ethan dreamed of open doors, golden light, and a life filled with possibility. The affirmation had become more than just words. It was a guiding star, leading him toward a future he could finally believe in. Chapter 3: The Doors Begin to Open. Ethan awoke to the gentle hum of the city, sunlight filtering through the blinds and painting golden stripes across his bedroom wall. For the first time in years, He felt a sense of anticipation fluttering in his chest, like the world was quietly conspiring in his favor. As he stretched and sat up, he closed his eyes and spoke the words that had become his morning ritual. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. He let the affirmation settle into his bones, repeating it softly as he prepared for the day. There was something different in the air, an energy he couldn't quite name, but one that seemed to shimmer with possibility. At the cafe, Ethan's usual routine felt lighter. He greeted customers with genuine warmth, noticing how their smiles lingered a little longer and their laughter seemed to fill the space with light. Mid-morning, a woman he'd never seen before approached the counter, her eyes bright and curious. "I'm new in town," she said, glancing at the menu. "What do you recommend?" Ethan smiled, suggesting his favorite blend. As he prepared her coffee, they chatted about the city, its hidden gems, and the best places to find inspiration. Before she left, she handed him a business card. "I run a small design studio. If you ever want to collaborate or need some creative work, let me know." He slipped the card into his pocket, feeling a spark of excitement. After she left, he whispered under his breath, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The words felt less like a wish and more like a gentle reminder from the universe. The rest of the day unfolded with a quiet magic. An elderly man left a generous tip and thanked Ethan for his kindness. A regular customer brought in homemade cookies for the staff. Even the city outside seemed to move with a kind of grace, as if everything was falling into place. During his lunch break, Ethan sat in the park, the city's noise softened by the rustle of leaves overhead. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his emails, surprised to find a message from an old college friend. They hadn't spoken in years, but the friend wrote, "I have a freelance project I think you'd be perfect for. Are you interested?" Ethan's heart raced. He replied immediately, setting up a call for later that week. As he put his phone away, he closed his eyes and repeated, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He felt the affirmation settle deep within, a quiet certainty that things were shifting. That evening, as dusk painted the sky in shades of lavender and gold, Ethan wandered through his neighborhood. He passed a small bookstore he'd never noticed before, its window filled with books about abundance, creativity, and personal growth. Drawn inside, he browsed the shelves until a slim volume caught his eye. The Golden Thread, Manifesting Abundance. He bought the book with the last of his cash, feeling a sense of serendipity. At home, he brewed a cup of tea and settled into his favorite chair, opening the book to a random page. The words leaped out at him. "Speak your truth and the universe will conspire in your favor." He smiled, feeling a shiver of recognition. He closed his eyes and spoke his affirmation once more. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The words felt powerful, like a key turning in a lock. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed more synchronicities. The freelance project from his friend turned out to be both lucrative and creatively fulfilling. The woman from the cafe emailed him, inviting him to a networking event at her studio. At the cafe, his manager began giving him more responsibility, hinting at a possible promotion. Each time something good happened, Ethan paused to acknowledge it, repeating his affirmation with gratitude. He began to keep a small notebook, jotting down every unexpected blessing, no matter how small. A free coffee, a compliment from a stranger, a new idea for a side project. One evening, as he walked home beneath the city lights, Ethan felt a sense of expansion. The world no longer seemed indifferent or overwhelming. Instead, it felt alive, responsive, and filled with possibility. He realized that the more he believed in the affirmation, the more evidence he found to support it. At the networking event, Ethan felt a surge of nervous excitement. The studio buzzed with creative energy, filled with artists, designers, and entrepreneurs. He mingled, shared his story, and listened to others describe their dreams and challenges. When he mentioned his affirmation, a few people nodded in recognition, sharing their own experiences with manifestation. Later that night, as he walked home, Ethan felt a profound sense of connection, not just to others, but to himself and the world around him. He stopped on a quiet street corner, looked up at the stars peeking through the city haze, and whispered, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He realized that wealth wasn't just about money. It was about opportunity, connection, creativity, and the willingness to believe in something greater than himself. It was about trusting that the universe was on his side, responding to his intentions and actions. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan's life continued to transform. He received a promotion at the cafe, his freelance work flourished, and he began collaborating with a design studio on a project that had excited him. He moved into a brighter apartment, decorated with reminders of his journey, a vision board, his affirmation written on a sticky note, and the golden thread from the book now framed on his wall. Every morning and night, Ethan repeated his affirmation, feeling its truth resonate deeper each time. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. With each repetition, he felt more aligned, more open, and more grateful. The doors had begun to open, and Ethan knew deep in his heart that he was only just beginning to discover the true abundance life had to offer. Chapter 4: The Tides Turn. Ethan's life was changing in ways he had never imagined. Each day seemed to bring new opportunities, new connections, and new reasons to believe in the power of his words. The affirmation had become a quiet melody in his mind, one that played softly in the background of every moment. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. One crisp morning, Ethan stood at the window of his new apartment, watching the city wake beneath a sky streaked with rose and gold. The apartment was small, but it was filled with light and hope, two things he had once thought were out of reach. He sipped his coffee, feeling gratitude for how far he'd come. As he gazed at the vision board he'd hung above his desk, he spoke the affirmation aloud, letting it fill the room with possibility. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. His phone buzzed with a message from Julia, the creative studio owner he'd met at the networking event. "Can you meet today?" she wrote. "I have an idea I want to share with you." Ethan's heart leapt. He quickly replied, then dressed in his best shirt and set off for the studio, repeating his affirmation with every step. The studio was alive with energy. Designers sketching, music playing, sunlight pouring through tall windows. Julia greeted him with a warm smile and ushered him into a cozy meeting room. "I've been thinking about your story," she began, "and how you approach life. I want you to help lead a new project, something that could really make a difference for our clients and for us." Ethan listened as Julia described her vision, a program to help small businesses grow through creative branding and digital storytelling. She wanted Ethan to co-lead the team, trusting his intuition and his ability to connect with people. As she spoke, Ethan felt a surge of excitement and gratitude. He silently repeated his affirmation, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The project launched with enthusiasm. Ethan poured his energy into the work, drawing on everything he'd learned about manifestation and abundance. He encouraged his team to set intentions, to believe in their own creativity, and to celebrate every success, no matter how small. The studio thrived, attracting new clients and earning glowing reviews. Each milestone felt like confirmation that he was on the right path. Outside of work, Ethan's life blossomed. He reconnected with old friends, hosted dinner parties in his sunlit apartment, and volunteered at a local youth centre, teaching workshops on creativity and self-belief. Each act of generosity seemed to multiply, returning to him in unexpected ways: a new client referral, a heartfelt thank you, a sudden flash of inspiration. He began to understand that wealth was not just about money, but about the richness of experience, connection, and joy. One evening, as he walked home through the city's vibrant streets, Ethan paused at a quiet park. The air was cool and fragrant with blooming flowers. He sat on a bench beneath a canopy of stars, reflecting on his journey. He remembered the nights of worry and doubt, the first tentative words of his affirmation, and the small miracles that had followed. He realized that every step, every choice, had led him to this moment. He closed his eyes and spoke the affirmation with deep conviction. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He felt the truth of it resonate in his heart, as if the universe itself was echoing his words. As the weeks passed, Ethan's confidence grew. He began to dream bigger, setting new goals for himself and his team. He invested in his own growth, taking courses on leadership and financial literacy. He read books on abundance, practiced gratitude daily, and continued to write in his notebook, recording every blessing and breakthrough. One day, Julia called him into her office. "Ethan," she said, "I want you to know how much you've inspired everyone here. Your positivity, your belief in abundance, it's contagious. I'd like you to lead a workshop for the whole company. Share your story. Teach us your affirmation." Ethan felt a wave of humility and pride. He agreed, and soon found himself standing before his colleagues, sharing his journey from struggle to abundance. He spoke honestly about his fears, his doubts, and the moment he decided to trust in something greater. He led the group in repeating the affirmation together. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The energy in the room shifted. People smiled, some with tears in their eyes. Ethan saw the golden thread of possibility weaving through every heart, connecting them in hope and belief. The workshop became a turning point for the studio. Productivity soared, creativity flourished, and a sense of camaraderie filled the air. Ethan received thank you notes from colleagues and clients, each one a reminder of the ripple effect of his words and actions. As the year drew to a close, Ethan looked back with awe and gratitude. He had found not only financial abundance, but a wealth of friendship, purpose, and joy. He understood now that the affirmation was more than just words. It was a way of life, a guiding principle that shaped his reality. On New Year's Eve, surrounded by friends and colleagues, Ethan raised a glass in celebration. He smiled, remembering the man he once was, the man who dared to believe in the power of his own voice. As the clock struck midnight, he led the group in one final affirmation. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. The words rang out, clear and strong, carrying into the new year and beyond. Ethan knew with every fibre of his being that abundance was his birthright, and that by sharing his truth, he had helped others discover their own. Chapter 5. The Harvest. Ethan stood on the balcony of his new apartment, high above the city's glowing veins of light. The air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of laughter and celebration. Below, the city pulsed with life, a tapestry of stories, dreams, and possibilities. As he gazed out, he felt a deep sense of gratitude welling inside him. He closed his eyes, breathed in the cool night air, and whispered, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He had come so far. The journey from struggling barista to creative director and entrepreneur felt like a dream. The affirmation had not only transformed his bank account, but his entire way of living. Now, Ethan's days were filled with purpose, creativity, and connection. He had learned that true wealth was measured not just by numbers, but by the richness of experience and the joy of giving back. The studio's program for small businesses had become a local sensation. Ethan and Julia's team had helped dozens of entrepreneurs find their voice and grow their brands. The gratitude of their clients was palpable. Thank you notes, heartfelt testimonials, and even homemade gifts arrived weekly. Each success story was a reminder of the ripple effect of abundance. Ethan kept a corkboard in his office, pinning up every letter and photo as a daily reminder of the lives they'd touched. One afternoon, Julia burst into his office, her eyes shining. "We've been nominated for the City Impact Award," she exclaimed, waving a letter. "They want us to speak at the gala next month." Ethan felt a surge of pride and humility. He remembered the first time he'd spoken his affirmation, alone in a cramped apartment, unsure if anyone would ever notice his efforts. Now, he was being invited to share his story with the city. That evening, as he prepared his speech, he paused, placed his hand over his heart, and said, "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The words felt like a golden thread running through every chapter of his life. The gala was a whirlwind of lights, music, and celebration. Ethan mingled with business leaders, artists, and philanthropists, each one eager to hear his story. When it was his turn to speak, he stepped onto the stage, the spotlight warm on his face. He looked out at the crowd and took a deep breath. "I used to believe that wealth was something distant, something reserved for other people," he began. "But I learned that wealth is not just about money. It's about opportunity, gratitude, and the willingness to believe in yourself. My journey began with a simple affirmation. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He paused, letting the words settle over the audience. He shared the story of his transformation, the struggles, the small miracles, the moments of doubt, and the breakthroughs. He spoke of the power of intention, the importance of gratitude, and the joy of helping others succeed. As he finished, he invited everyone to repeat the affirmation with him. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. The crowd's voices rose in unison, filling the hall with hope and possibility. Ethan felt tears prick his eyes. In that moment, he realized that his journey was not just his own. It was a beacon for others, a reminder that abundance was within reach for anyone willing to believe. In the weeks that followed, Ethan's life continued to blossom. The studio received new partnerships and grants, allowing them to expand their programs and reach even more people. Ethan was invited to lead workshops and seminars, teaching others how to harness the power of intention and affirmation. He watched as his clients and colleagues began to experience their own breakthroughs, new jobs, creative projects, and unexpected windfalls. At home, Ethan created rituals to celebrate his abundance. He started each day with a gratitude journal, listing every blessing, big or small. He meditated on his vision board, visualizing new goals and dreams. He gave generously, donating time and resources to causes close to his heart. The more he shared, the more abundance seemed to flow back to him, as if the universe was echoing his affirmation. Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly. One Saturday, Ethan hosted a gathering for friends and colleagues. The apartment buzzed with laughter, music, and the clink of glasses. As the evening drew on, someone asked him, "What's your secret, Ethan? How did you turn things around?" He smiled, thinking of all the moments that had brought him here. "It started with a belief," he said. "A belief that I was worthy of abundance, and that the universe wanted to support me. I spoke it every day, even when I didn't fully believe it, and slowly my life began to change." He led the group in a toast, inviting everyone to join him in his affirmation. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." The words rippled through the room, weaving a sense of hope and unity among his guests. Late that night, after everyone had gone, Ethan stood alone on his balcony, gazing at the city lights. He reflected on his journey, the challenges, the lessons, the unexpected blessings. He knew there would always be new goals to pursue, new dreams to chase. But he also knew that he carried within him the power to create his own reality. He closed his eyes one last time, feeling the affirmation settle into his soul. "Wealth flows to me easily and effortlessly." He smiled, knowing that his story was far from over, and that abundance, in all its forms, would continue to flow into his life, as naturally as the rising sun.